You know, our jingle here is very positive, very happy, very upbeat. But today I got to tell you, I don't think anybody should be upbeat because society today has gone to a point, Stuart, where we have rationalized hate. Fascinating how 10 years ago, five, when George Floyd was, it's about 5 years now since when George Floyd was killed. And I don't care what side you're on, it doesn't make a difference. Globally, people mobilized. We need social justice. We need to change the system. And here we are in 2025, and the system has been completely not just changed, screwed up. Because suddenly certain people deserve social justice, and certain people deserve to be vilified, called out for hate. Stuart, I'm mortified after what happened last week in Washington, where two young staffers were shot, killed. A gentleman raised as Christian, targeted. A Jewish girl from the Midwest, targeted for whatever reason, other than just because they were at an event. And I'm not going to get into the details of what Elias Rodriguez allegedly did, but let me get into the whole rationale behind what people are doing as of today. Welcome back, folks, to the Rant Network. I am David Solomon. He is Stuart Brisgell. If you haven't figured it out by now, this is an unedited, uncensored, unfiltered, and totally unapologetic. We have no agenda. We have no bias. We are just straight shooters, straight from the hip, because we're sick and tired of talking about the news, the pop culture, and the quirks of modern life that makes us go, what the fuck? Tune in today, folks, because we are absolutely angry because the world has decided right from wrong is now tipped on its edge. So sit back, folks, as we want to hear your voice later on. But for now, leave it for Stuart and me just for a little bit. Stuart, I want to just, before I pass the ball over to you, I am so sickened today because last week, two words threw me for a loop. Free Palestine. Well, you know what? Once upon a time, I might have understood that it was about geographic, freedom, independence, call it what you want. Now it's the new slogan of hate. Now it's the mask of fuck the Jews, kill the Jews, free Palestine. Elias Rodriguez did a wonderful job of equating these two. The Jews must be killed, and freeing Palestine, that mantra now is their slogan. Stuart, I think social justice is out the bloody window everywhere. What say you, my friend?
Well, let me start off, and true to form, which annoys David, let me discuss history. In the Middle Ages, Jews were allegedly poisoned wells, and they were massacred and murdered throughout Europe. In World War II, Jews were commerce whores and greedy, and were murdered and slaughtered. Today, it's free Palestine. The irony is they were all based upon social justice issues, which gather up weak-minded, silly, stupid, ignorant, horrible, disgusting, venomous people and bond them into a mantra of hate and destruction. And along for the ride come Bono from U2 saying, we need peace. A friend and mentor of mine, Denis Saint-Amour, who thinks we need peace and that the war should stop and the bloodshed should stop. And in a very telling, thought-provoking response to an old mentor and dear friend, I summed it up simply. Free the hostages, you can get peace. There's another common needle and a thread that goes within it that I've brought up and mentioned several times over the last 800 episodes. You know, the neo-Nazism modern era version of the grand plan is the plan that has existed within the Muslim faith long before we knew of an Adolf Hitler. It's the long game to have death to Jews and take the land of Israel as a magical trick in front of us all. When you hear the superstar saying free Palestine, I wonder what their IQ level is and level of actual education. History, it repeats itself over and over and over again when ignorance is at play. So whether I'm talking about an old dear friend or a pop star that I've been following since 1977, it's the same conclusion. And the reason why these conclusions keep coming over and over and over again is because they're all tied to social justice causes that you may relate to, like George Floyd. David mentioned it early in the green room. Maybe you've heard, Ted Vaughn from the west coast of Florida. So the key on harnessing hate in the spirit of social justice is by creating the cause. And it seems that the hatred towards Jews is sport. And they would have you believe that we need to take a pause and respect the people on the other side of this war, when in fact they're the cause of this war. They are the pawns of the Ayatollah Khomeini, which nuclear proliferation is not an option and something that you need to garner caution. Why did a government allow another government whose doomsday cult-like and actually actions seem to be? Yes, the inventor of the suicide bomber is the modern day Muslim coming from Ayatollah Khomeini's teaches. The initial suicide bomber of the modern era was the barracks in Beirut. And there began the death cult march of the modern era. So whether they're blowing up U.S. military people on foreign land, whether they're running into a peace art exhibit in Washington, D.C., the death cult marches on. So would you like them to have a nuclear weapon at this point? So where our government lies is on social justice issues. And that Donald J. Trump is the warmonger. Again, trying to string and thread ideas together behind social justice issues to the point where he was almost executed not once but twice that we know of. So why am I bringing up Donald Trump, Jews, and Muslims? Because you're using social justice issues and the backs of Islam to murder people. So when you say free Palestine on the college campuses, when you say stop the bloodshed in Gaza, free Gaza, you're screaming out death to Jews, death to Israel, death to the United States. And you know what's ironic here in the United States? How many times have you seen the American flag burned by these people? It used to be a crime to burn an American flag. It's no longer, because we want to destroy it, is the mantra of the Islamic religion. David?
Well, okay, let me start with the end there. I appreciate what you just said, but I got to tell you, I met quite a few Muslims who are not quite like that. I get what you say. I would rather call it extremism at this point. Yes, its basis is Islam, but there are moderate Muslims, which I do applaud, and I will not. There are many Persians of the Muslim faith and others that I've met along the way that are preaching peace, and they are preaching peace. Unfortunately, they're few and far between, but there are those who do. Stuart, I'm going to take your point just one step further, though, because I don't think you went far enough, which is really shocking for me, because I really do expect you to go a little bit more. Ladies and gentlemen, over the weekend, the Israeli National Security Council announced that Israel is put out a travel warning for Jews to Canada. Yes, Canada. The so-called peace-loving country, Stuart, that you and I have grown up in, that you and I both, know it, we're supposedly a peace-loving country, that we're supposedly, here to protect the people, once again reared its ugly head, which is consistent in Canadian history, to fuck the Jews. So we're being told, don't wear symbols. Don't walk around with a dog tag. Don't walk around with a yellow ribbon, and God forbid you should wear a Star of David or a kippah, any symbol that represents being Jewish, because your life could be in danger. What message is that when you visit cities like Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, that you are in danger? What is that? I expect that if I go to certain African countries, I expect that when I go to certain Latin American and South American countries because of crime, I expect that in certain countries, like Arab countries where I wouldn't be welcome. But Canada, United States did get there. And thank you to the President of the United States for actually clamping down on guys like Harvard, Columbia, and other states who governors have the intestinal fortitude, from John Fetterman down to Governor Abbott to your governor down in Florida, DeSantis, who have the intestinal fortitude to stand up for what's right. But to get a travel warning as a Jew, imagine, in Canada, be careful, your life is in danger. And why? It's because you've let in immigration. And I know they'll say this is a very horrific statement, but when you let immigrants in to a country and you tell them, don't worry about your history, don't worry about your past, bring the baggage with you. Bring what you brought with from the old country to the new country, and we don't care what you do, how you unpack it, as long as you target Jews. How wonderful is that? And that's exactly what's going on college campuses. And yes, today Canadians are waking up going, what do you mean my kid can't go to Harvard University? We pay the tuition. Hundreds of Canadians are like, what the hell? Well, yeah, because you want to know what? They're being punished for not protecting the people that they swore to protect. I'd like to see this with politicians. I'd like to see this with media. Ladies and gentlemen, when the Iranian regime is applauding Elias Rodriguez for killing 2 Israeli staffers and the media goes quiet, it's amazing. When CNN has an interview with a witness and the witness says, "Hey, listen, you've been screaming on college campuses since October 8th about killing Jews, and there is a connection, and she's trying to find a way to defend the students for free speech." This is the society create. The social justice that you want to create is to vilify Jews. You are encouraging killing Jews. That's exactly what you are doing. From AOC, Ilhan Omar, Rashida Tlaib, Bernie Sanders, to the media, to everyone who on social media who continues to say we should chant for Intifada, free Palestine. You people have any clue what you're saying? No. What you chanted about, we need freedom, we need social justice for the Black community. We stood with you, agreeing it's unfair. And now you're saying death to Jews. You are applauding death to Jews. When the mayor of Chicago wears a keffiyeh, he's calling for death to Jews. When you've got people fighting INS in the United States because you've got people like Mahmoud Khalil screaming death to Jews, you are encouraging this. You want social justice? Stuart, you tell me I don't like when you bring up history. The opposite. I think people need to hear more about history, because every time the Jew is targeted, all of society suffers. All of society suffers. Okay? From the Inquisition to today, every time a Jew is targeted the way it is happening today, society suffers. And if you want American and Western society to suffer, you're doing it. You want to stop the degradation? Stop it. Call off your dogs. Call off this vilification. Enough with the chants. Stop wrapping yourself around the Constitution that you don't understand. If you believe in social justice, it's for one and all, not for some.
Well said. David, I think this Memorial Day weekend, I think we have a lot more to think about. You know, Veterans Day is for those that are living. Memorial Day is for those that have given their lives. And if those that gave their lives in the most recent wars throughout the Middle East or the last war of World War II, they'd be turning over in their graves where they were laid to rest. It is truly disgusting, and it's absolutely at the fault and the hands of those that cheat and that cheer. Go.
You know what, Stuart? I got to tell you, people like Guy Christensen, who's praising the murder of Israeli, he's a so-called influencer. Okay, his videos. He read the Rodriguez's manifesto. He called for genocide, against Jews, killing of Israelis. Loved it. He loved it. People are rejoicing in the streets, and he keeps going on and on and on. He's a TikTok influencer with more than 3 million followers. You son of a bitch, you wouldn't be living right now in the United States if not for what happened by the veterans. And by the way, there were Jewish veterans who fought alongside blacks, Hispanics, every American to fought in World War II, Korea, Vietnam, for freedom in the United States, that gave you the opportunity to live in freedom in the United States. You fucker today, you deserve to be slaughtered. You deserve to be smacked the side of your head. You deserve to be tortured for the way you have desecrated what American values are really all about. I think it's disgusting, and TikTok should take him down. This isn't free speech. It's hate speech, and it has to be eliminated. And on Memorial Day, don't desecrate those that gave you an opportunity to speak freely. You don't like it, Guy Christensen? Go move to one of those countries that you claim to support. Stuart, last word to you, my friend.
Like I said, I am truly appalled, shocked, and flabbergasted. And if you don't want to see events happen again as they did in the past, stand up, be counted. Tell the person next to you, even if they're a mentor, even if you've had respect, love, and care for over 40 years for that person, and stop them in their tracks and say, do you really understand what you're saying? You know what? I'm going to leave you with this. In Israel, they teach the children to love. In Gaza and throughout the Arab world, they teach their children to hate. Whether it's in an Arab land or even here in the United States or North America, Canada, Mexico. So if you teach hate, what do you expect the result will be? David, close it out.
Stuart, the sad part is it's not just about the hate in marriage. It's but young people today who've decided that hate as a